If you're an Android user, you've probably been using the same assistant for a pretty long time with no choices in the matter. But that may be changing soon. Well, that is if you're in the EU, because on July 16th, 2026, the EU decided that Google is too big and that they need to share two things specifically. One, the agent space, specifically the agent space on a phone, and two, some of that sweet search data that Google has its hands on. No one beats Google, not on Android, not on search, not Bing, not DuckDuckGo, no one. But regulators are doing something that the markets never could with the Digital Markets Act. The Digital Markets Act, or DMA, is basically the EU's rulebook for a couple companies that they consider gatekeepers. This is basically like a company that you can't route around, you don't really have any choices other than using them. Specifically, Google in this case. Shockingly, right? But they are pointing at two things that they're saying, hey, you have a monopoly in this space and we have to do something about that. Those two are their grip on Android's AI assistant and, of course, Google search. The DMA isn't just going out handing them fines and going, all right, continue with your business. They are making specific legal decisions that Google must respond to and abide by, at least in the European Union. On July 16th, like we mentioned, they were handed two of those decisions. So, decision one is about loosening Google's chokehold on the Android Assistant space, basically by giving rival AIs equally effective access as to what Google currently gives Gemini. Like, for example, giving them a real wake word like Google has Hey Google, or giving them on device context, in app and system actions, and on device model acts. Oh, speaking of Hey Google, mine activated. But something like that. Very handy features. But these key features are actually going to be gated behind Google's Qualified AI Assistant program, where there will be like a certification bar that Google will deem as, you are safe enough or, whatever. But these features are going to be rolling around pretty soon, starting in August of 2027, where they'll roll out some of these features to these qualified assistants. And in 2028, they'll be getting that specialized hot word, which feels like, that's being pushed out for a reason. I feel like having that hot word is like a pretty key feature that Gemini has over the other competitors. So I'm sure that they're like, no, 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 like we really need to see the security behind this because we can't give it out so soon. So decision two is all about Google having to share some of that sweet, sweet search data, that click, query, and ranking signals that Google has access to at scale. They have to share this data with rival chatbots and search engines, but the caveat is that they specifically have to use this data for bettering search, like they can't use it to train their models or something like that. And Google also has the discrimination of being able to say, hey, you're a privacy or security risk, you can't have access to this data. I just shit the whole table. So we'll see how that ends up going about. But this is supposed to kick into effect in January of 2027, which is right around the corner. So for Android, Google and Gemini isn't just an assistant, it's the assistant. It has so many features that other third parties don't get access to. Like we already discussed Google's hot word, which I don't want to say again to not activate it on my phone. Um, the ability to be able to press on the side button from anywhere and immediately get access to Gemini. These are features that other apps just don't have, and it's something that I know Google wants to hold on to. Not only that, but we discussed their ability to see what's on your phone, basically the OS handing them context to what's on the screen and being able to not only see that, but be able to act across different apps like booking a taxi or writing a draft inside of your Google Messenger. This is all access that Gemini has that you could not do with another assistant at the moment. So these are some of the features that DMA is really cracking down on. This like OS level capability that Android only really gives Gemini. This is what's going to be forced open and stop being Gemini only. Obviously, this is not something Google likes because they get that tight chokehold in the space. But now you'll have the option to say, let's use a Chat GPT AI assistant on my phone or a Claude AI assistant on my phone. That might be a reality soon. Again, if you live in the EU. Unfortunately, I don't fall into that, but hopefully, maybe something soon. Maybe Google will be like everybody gets it. But anyways, this is what people are talking about. This is what people are excited about because it's going to affect individuals. But decision 2 is what less people are talking about and what I would say Google is probably more worried about. When people think about Google, the first thing I'm sure that comes into your mind is that iconic Google search bar. We all know what it looks like. I know you're picturing it in your heads right now, but not only is it iconic, it's known for being the best search bar, right? But why is that? Well, that why might be exactly what DMA wants Google to share with its competitors. So, let's talk about the Google feedback loop. So billions of people click here, click there, next page, make a search, go back. This data allows for Google to see what kind of results really led to the answer that people are looking for. And now that they can fold this information back into their search, which creates for a better search. So the more people that search, the better results you get, which causes more people to use your engine. Now, if you're a new search engine, you kind of have a chicken and the egg problem because your search sucks, so no one uses your search. So now you also don't have that access to that traffic that allows your search to get better. So you fall off, and Google props up to what 20 years of this same loop has created. And that's basically what the DMA wants to break down. So the DMA's answer to this is basically to make Google force share some of their data in an anonymized fashion, some of that click, query, and ranking data that these companies have never had access to before. And obviously, the scale of Google's data is going to be huge. So, the first thing that the commissioner had to say was, hey guys, hey, you're allowed to use this to make your search better, but you better not be training on this data. It seems like, the commission doesn't want to give every AI lab in the world access to a corpus of the world's clicking habits. So, maybe that was a good call. Probably not like Google isn't using it, but anyways, I digress. The timing of it isn't really great for Google either because this is off the back of their flagship Gemini 3.5 Pro, I believe, failing its targets for the third time. And then the DMA is like, come here, give me your data, give me all of the compensating factors that you had to back your failing product. Not failing, not meeting targets product. You know, just not a good look. So, what does Google have to say? Well, its global affairs chief, Kent Walker, argues that forcing open these interfaces and sharing this data weakens the privacy and security guardrails that they have in place to actually protect European users. Not only that, but that the safest assistant is one that is tightly integrated with the OS, and that the safest search data is one that is not shared, which is innately true. But coming from Google and in this defense, it feels more like a hey, trust us. Only us though, because we don't want to share any of this data. This is really what it feels more like than they're like, hey, it's about your security. It's Google. It's Google. They're collecting our data all the time. It doesn't feel like a. Anyways, I digress. So let's say Google says, nah, don't care. What happens? Well, the DMA is threatening a 10% fine on Google's global revenue and 20% for repeat offenses, which is an insane number. So it doesn't really feel like the DMA is asking for this to be done. It's demanding it gets done. So regulators did what 15 years worth of competition couldn't do. Now, does this mean that we're gonna get better assistance on our phone? I don't know, because that really just comes down to how this whole equally effective thing gets enforced. But I do want to make this comment. Like, listen, if I didn't get a Pixel and it didn't come with a year of free Gemini Pro, one, I wouldn't have Gemini Pro. And two, if I had the option to switch right now, Claude would be all over my phone. Gemini definitely wouldn't be my go-to use case. Right now, really the majority of the times that I use it is because of how easy it is to use. I have my phone in my hand, I can say, "Hey Google," I can click a little button and it pops up like immediately, and it's just really that efficiency and that convenience that is keeping something like the Google AI Assistant in the place that it is now, right? Um, so that's just my take. Listen, if you had the option, maybe if you're someone in the EU who will have the option, what are you going for? Like, what is the assistant that you're letting take over your phone? Honestly, maybe there will be an option to have some de-Googled assistant in the future. Even, I don't know. Probably de-Googled. It's all de-Googled. Duh. But you know what I mean. Like, anyways, anyways. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.